This is Peter Walsh with M&R.
Scott Ritter with the Decorated Apparel Expo.
This is Ben Landesman with Lawson Screen and Digital Products.
This is Deborah Sexton.
And you're listening to the Two Regular Guys
Podcast.
Hosted by Terry Combs
and Aaron Montgomery.
All right. Well, welcome into the show. It is Friday, May 13th, 2022. Friday the 13th. Dun, dun, dun. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at oursuccessgroup.com. As Terry mentioned, it is Friday the 13th. So we thought, hey, what a better day than today to talk about, what happens when you kind of run out of luck, right? The Friday the 13th thing happens to you. So we know that in the real world of production, business, all those things, not everything goes according to plan. That's one of my favorite things actually to ask at a seminar, Terry, as we go. Has anybody here ever not ruined a product, like not had a shirt come out correctly? And right? And
so this is your first day then.
Yeah, exactly. So you've not printed anything yet, right? Okay, good. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about here today, Terry. Just those real worlds, what happens? How can we plan for the unplanned, and how do we deal with those unexpected issues, those feelings of the knife being plunged into our back, right?
Right. Well, I always say to people in my seminars when you're talking about rate of production and this and that, and I said, but unfortunately, my shop doesn't live in the perfect world. So.
That's right. All right. Well, again, happy Friday the 13th, everybody. I love Friday the 13th, by the way, Terry. It's my lucky day. And you guys have heard this, I'm sure, every time we have a Friday the 13th.
What's it called again?
Non-triskaidekaphobia day, right? So non-triskaidekaphobia, the not afraid of 13. And that's a real thing. Triskaidekaphobia is a real thing out there. So my dad, now with Facebook and old people being on Facebook, right? So he posted a message to me this morning saying happy non-triskaidekaphobia day. And really funny, my older son Keegan got on there and posted, keep your eyes peeled for Jason Voorhees. So look out for Jason.
Supposedly, and it's believed that Friday the 13th is actually dates back to when the Knights Templar were arrested, and many of them burned at the stake in the 14th century. It was on Friday the 13th. So,
yep, it was. And the other thing that I heard about that, and I don't know if this is true, it's a conspiracy theory, but
hey, was it on the internet? So
yeah, exactly. It was totally true. Then it was on the internet. That was also then, like I said, it was a Friday the 13th that happened, but it was also a pagan holiday that was celebrated on Friday the 13th. So that was kind of the way to move it away from being a pagan holiday into something else. So anyhow, that again, we'll get way deep into.
That's another whole show, because I have comments about pagan holidays, but no, let's.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's hit a couple quick, not a ton of news specifically going on, but I had a little news from my side, and I know you've had some things that came up that might be worth a quick conversation. So I do have a article out. I'm fortunate enough to get to write every month for Graphics Pro magazine. I have a column called The Rising Tide of Business. And my most recent article is out in their May version there. And I'd really love to get the regulators' feedback on it, what you guys thought of it. It's about overcoming imposter syndrome. And I'm actually pretty proud of how it turned out. So you can give it a read. Eric's got the link up on screen for those checking us out live, but it's osg.link/imposter. And yeah, just let me know your thoughts on it. Is there anything in it that you can use to improve your business, your life, or anything like that? So love to hear that feedback from you guys.
Terry, I'll need to check that out, because sometimes I have that feeling on Fridays about 11 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah, so. There you go.
All right. Well, I just, Kim and I were talking yesterday, and I thought it must be time for another legal show, because she was showing me a TikTok business that with about 500,000 followers, only been in business for 90 days. And she's like showing me this, like, what do you think about this? Because apparently this woman She's a maker, a creator, she calls
Mhm.
herself, and she has these catchphrases that she uses. But unfortunately, her catchphrases are just common uses things that people say every day. And she said, "Now I've seen people using my catchphrases out there, and I've secured an attorney, and I'll be suing people for using my catchphrases." And I don't want to say what the particular one she was talking about was, because I don't want to come back to who it is. But I'm like, you know what? I think somebody has a trademark on that. And of course we look it up, and everything's on the internet. Yeah, somebody's had a trademark on it for several years, but she just starts saying it and thinks, I've been in business for 90 days, so I understand this. And I started thinking about it and thought, these people that jump into business, all of a sudden they catch fire on TikTok.
Yeah.
They didn't have that opportunity to work out of their garage and make really stupid mistakes, and a very, very small number of people see it. and I thought, she's just broadcasting to 500,000 people that I have an attorney now, and we'll be suing everybody that uses my catchphrase. I'm like, guess what? You're using somebody else's catchphrase.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're 500,000 followers, you might get sued. Yes.
exactly right. So anyway, I just thought it was kind of it kind of struck me last night when
Yeah.
we were talking about it, that there was a time where you started business and you were able to kind of make those mistakes with very, very few people watching. So
Yeah.
it's a new world.
Now it's a new world for sure. Well, Gordon, I'm sure would be more than happy to come back if we kind of figure out where that topic runs. I do think, I know kind of just as a way to kind of show that people need to, be careful of what they're doing and whatnot in the new social media world. But, that could be a really good show for Gordon. So,
Yeah.
Let's make that happen. What the heck, right?
I love Gordon.
Yeah, Gordon's great. And honestly, because I think that gets into even more into his wheelhouse. So really what his wheelhouse is media, podcasting and videos
Right.
and stuff like that.
An entertainment attorney, I believe.
Entertainment attorney for sure.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely more of his wheelhouse. And so I think we could kind of lean that a little bit more that way, because you think about it, in business, we're doing the printing and things like that, but TikTok businesses, things like that, you're dealing with a lot of media kind of challenges there. So having somebody like Gordon on your team is probably a worthwhile endeavor, I'd say.
Let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's check in with some folks here this morning. And good morning to Chuck, going way back here, Eric, and good morning to Bevy Jean. And Lyndon says, good morning, guys. Happy Education Friday. We've got Christine checking in. Hey, guys, happy Friday the 13th, though she does not believe in the superstition. I believe it's just another awesome day to feel awesome. So there you go.
An awesome day to feel awesome. I love it.
Kristen says, good morning, people. And glad to have her along. So, yeah, we got everybody checking in, Curtis and Rich and everybody else here. What else is going on in the comment world here, Terry? Oh, Eric, thank you for putting up the triskaidekaphobia for those trying to verify the research. All right.
I, of course, just moved my comments off to the side. So
I just did the same thing.
Kristen says she needs a better attorney. That was my thought. I thought, really, an attorney didn't tell you immediately? Yeah, no, you don't
say that. Yeah, exactly.
Just because you and every woman in the South uses that phrase doesn't mean you own it.
That's right. I think good point, Kristen. And then we've got Dot Tone Dan popping in. Thanks to Dan for being here. I don't know if I told you this, Terry. I actually had an opportunity to go have dinner with Dan. In fact,
no.
We fought over the bill, but he stole it from us. So
I was going to say, did you do a little this?
Fighting? Short arms. Oh, I can't reach my. No. It was awesome. We had an opportunity to go have dinner with Dan and his wonderful wife Darla, and wow, it was just a great evening there to spend time with them. And you and I've known Dan way back, right?
I was just going to say, you and I have known Dan way back in the U.S. Screen days. So.
Yeah, for sure. So having an opportunity to really sit down with him, I'd never had, we'd talked plenty of times at shows and stuff like that, but to have that opportunity to sit down with him, it was invaluable. So great to see you, Dan. All right, let's see here. Christine,
I need a catchy name like Tom Dan, though. I need to work on that. Christine, you came up with regulators. Come up with a catchy name for me like that.
Tubular Terry.
No, see, that's why I said not you.
Oh, dude, okay, I forgot.
You get the thumbs down from Eric there.
Yeah, and the bad head shake. Eric's got several head shakes that we get to see, and it's the bad head shake that we got to watch out for. And that's when we're close to the mute button.
They want, the stop talking head shake.
All right. Todd shared T-shirt Terry. There you go.
Yeah, true.
All right. And Christine says, I'd also be worried about the attorney who took the case if they didn't do a few minutes of research to figure out the case was groundless. Yeah.
Our friends at uspto.gov, United States Patent and Trademark Office, you can type that phrase right there, and it will tell you who owns it and who'll be contacting you.
Yes, exactly. All right. Thank you, Dan. Glad that you enjoyed it too. It was awesome. All right. So I think it's that time, Terry. Is it that
You have
time?
a dad joke. You contributed. I don't know if you noticed at the bottom of the outline, I've had to start listing future dad jokes at the bottom of the outline because we get so many contributions now.
I love it. Yeah, keep those contributions coming. If we could just get the contributions with the 5 things, then we're really going to be rolling.
Yeah.
So,
and then there are the ones that I share with just you and Eric and say, well, okay, we can't use this one, but this is funny.
Maybe that's for the after hours show where we don't go to podcast with it. So, all right. Well, this is actually from my mentor, Jack Canfield. He shared this in a mastermind program. And they actually talked him into sharing some dirty ones too. Not dirty, but less appropriate ones in that moment. But I did not share that one. So I didn't remember it. But here's the one I remember. All right. I couldn't quite remember how to throw a boomerang. Then it hit me. Thank you.
All right. And we'll let Todd and everybody else comment on that. While I say thanks for everybody checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We are always looking for new guests. If you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2 regular guys with any of your show ideas. We have some shows coming up soon, but we have a kind of open calendar for this summer. So if you'd like to be on the show, that's a great opportunity. If you're listening to the podcast version of the show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends so they can become regulators too. And we would appreciate you giving us a review. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we are everywhere. And if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and questions, especially if you have run into your business running into a wall somewhere and what you did about it. So we'd love to have you contribute to that.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to hearing from the regulators throughout this here today. And like Terry said, jump on that opportunity. If there's somebody you'd like to hear from, I do have a couple of suggestions that came in from my friend Dean at Monterey T-shirts. And so we're going to be reaching out to those folks to try to get them on. But if you have people that you would like to hear from or learn from, please share their details with us and we'll arrange. But you can also just send them right over to that bit.ly link there, which goes to the calendar, and they can put in their information. Just an easy way for everybody to kind of get on the same page really quickly. So we can do that. So looking forward to hearing some new guests. We do have a couple of guests coming up over the next couple of weeks here. And but like Terry said, we're trying to fill out the summer here to get through the summer. So that's that. And then the other thing, Terry, is we are open to sponsorship now. We took that time away to kind of support the trade shows as they got back on their feet. And it looks like everything I'm seeing, trade shows are back in full swing, Terry. So that's been great. And I'm excited to see how things turn out for all of them here in 2022. But we are open here on the Two Regular Guys to be able to share your message. If you've got product service that you'd like to get out to the decorating community, then this is your opportunity. And if you go to tworegularguys.com/sponsorship, that will get you all the details. And if you have questions, you can certainly let us know. So, yeah, we've talked to some folks, and we'll see if we can kind of solidify some of those potential relationships. You know, what it is for us, Terry, with the sponsorship is just an opportunity to be able to share a little bit more, to be able to, talk
Right.
about something. We've never wanted to be like some of the other shows out there where it's like, yep, that is driven by, right. So, oh, well, they work for, and they're just talking about that company all the time, or they're sponsored by that show. And you can tell everything is spun to be able to sell more of that person's products. Right. So that we're different in that regard. I
Well,
would
yeah,
say.
and Aaron, we in the past we've done that before with sponsors who said, I want to sponsor you guys forever, and say, you know what, we only want to do this year because
Yeah.
we don't want it to appear that we are a spokespersons
People's.
for that particular company or that particular product. So, you know, it's this is a labor of love. We
Yes, it is.
don't really do it to make money, but we do like to have some sponsorship, as you said, to share with the industry. So
Sure. Yep. And, like it or not, there are expenses that come along with it. So any help would be great. All right. Well, shall we get into the show here, Terry?
let's talk a little Friday the 13th. And I have to say, I saw the other day the movie Saturday the 14th was playing on like Comet, where they play old horror movies. And I'm not encouraging people to go watch it, but it's kind of a funny 1980s spoof horror movie the day after Friday the 13th.
I don't think I've ever heard of that. So
Yeah, Saturday the 14th. You should check it out.
All right.
It's something, I think, early 80s. So
okay. All right.
So many of our listeners were not born yet when that movie came out. So
good point. Well, you were getting the head shake from Eric, so I don't know. Be careful. Just kidding.
Eric's a little more highbrow than this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, Terry, let's get into this. So, right. It is Friday the 13th. We're having some fun with all that. But the reality is things do go wrong in our businesses. It just, if nothing's gone wrong in your business, then, like Terry said, then you haven't started yet, because it's inevitable. And really it's about, you get knocked down. Being successful is about getting back up, right? Knock down 7, get up 8, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about, and just kind of covering a couple of different areas. We don't want to, for me, Terry, the goal here is that we're not getting into the complaining, commiserating, the
right.
Gets us nowhere. There's no solutions to be found in that. And so what we're looking for here is, okay, what do you do in this situation? And, with all of your experience in the trenches and the things that we've been able to see, we're going to share some things, but we are really looking for the regulators to bring their solutions to the table here. Right. So,
well, the first thing, Aaron, that comes to mind, obviously, when things go south is, for instance, when there's a pandemic. Now, I don't want to belabor this, because we have had many shows about, okay, we're in the middle of this thing. Here's how we need to deal with it. But I think that a real takeaway from the pandemic was, is your company fluid and agile? Or if you're just locked in, this is how I do business, this is the product I sell, this is the way I market it, and without, with blinders on, you're going to get tripped up. And my best example of this is Equipment Zone, where I spend my days. And when the pandemic hit, we were already in a position where we were doing webinars maybe once a month or something like that. Well, it was a pretty easy shifting of gears, because we were set up for it, that we started doing 2 webinars a week. And because there were no trade shows, there was no way to get out before the public. And it wasn't a webinar on, hey, let me demonstrate my product. It was education. And a lot of it was how to get your business through this, just like you and I have done through the pandemic. So, but it was just a matter of taking a step back, saying, okay, there aren't any more trade shows. That's how we reach out to people. What are our options here? And we just reached over there, and we, Jay Bassell, reached over there and said, okay, let's, and he's the marketing director at Equipment Zone. He said, let's double, triple, quadruple down on webinars. So that's, I guess that's just my example of being fluid and agile about how you do business.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, Terry. I mean, we have that new catchphrase, pivot, that came out of the pandemic, right? And
I thought that came from Friends. Pivot.
Well, but I'm sure some TikToker has tried to trademark pivot. But
right. They're calling their attorney right now. They're using my catchphrase.
Yeah, we should be getting a letter anytime. But yeah, I mean that's the reality. And even without a pandemic, right? Things are going to happen, and then you've got to pivot. You've got to be fluid. You got to be agile. And I think what I saw, right, because the stories that I continue to hear from people is, 2020 was one of the best years I ever had. 2021 was one of the best years I ever had. And so you all, okay. Because I also heard a lot of the woe is me stories, oh my God, I'm barely hanging on. I had to there was everything happening and lots of different things going on and for lots of different people. And so I was like, what's the common thread for those people that were, I survived, I did well, right? Even to that point. And what I saw is that those were the people that got to, like with what Jay did. Okay, we've got this issue. There's no trade shows to go to anymore, and that's our number one way of reaching the community. So, you could have gone, oh my God, it's so terrible, and spent all that time doing all that, but you found a solution. You started trying the solutions, right? I imagine you guys, like you said, were already in that space, but I know they got better, right? The very first one you did probably wasn't as good as, and now even to this day, you probably are getting better all the time. So
the virtual trade shows, Aaron, remember the first ones? It was painful. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm watching a train wreck.
Yeah. But you know what? They did it, right? And they looked for a solution. They tried things, and they survived.
And learned from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And you saw some of that, people sitting back a little bit to go, I want to see what happens here first, but I think those people that went out there and got after it and looked for solutions and then put those solutions into action were the ones that had the best opportunity. Yes, it may have been a little rocky at first, but I don't think that actually held them back. I actually think that gave them an advantage compared to the people that were sitting back waiting because they were in that space. Right. And
exactly.
So yeah, it's getting to that point of looking for solutions, the complaining, it just leads to more complaining. And then that leads to then resignation to like, oh my God, the sitting on your hands thing was like rampant at that point, right? Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen. It's scary. I get all that. Right? I had those moments, right? I had a few more, we had some cocktail parties and had a few more drinks than I probably should have because I was worried about stuff too.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're somebody that's a leader in a position where people are tuning in and looking to you for advice or looking to you, I think it's your responsibility to kind of just do more and be better and really just show up as the best version of yourself in those challenging times.
Aaron, those cocktail parties you mentioned, remember, especially the ones early on, all those people that came there and started chatting about this government funding. How did you do the paperwork? Who did you contact? There was a lot of great information that people were sharing that, if you're in northern Minnesota and you don't have a lot of peers around you to have these conversations with, there were people from all over the country having those and that was I guess our way of saying, hey, let's all have a cocktail and have a conversation about what's next. Where do we go from here in a positive way?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was it, right? It was based on let's find solutions. Yes, we've got a beer here because we're worried, but or we're enjoying a moment together, but at the same time there was all of that focus on the solution. And so I think this came up earlier today in another place where conversations were going on, and the whole concept of I can't, right? And and we'll get into some more of that a little bit later here. But I think that I guess just always being willing and I don't know, like pushed even to a point like where finding a solution is just part of who you are. So that would be when there's a pandemic, look for solutions, look for opportunities, and not to take advantage of the opportunity, but look because there are opportunities all the time, right? And some of the strongest and well-known companies that are part of the American vernacular that have been the most successful for the longest amount of time started during the Great Depression.
Right,
So
exactly right.
That you can go look that up. It's a reality, and
Or
they found
or
opportunity.
or seeing an opportunity and taking advantage of it, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you a dated one, but Sears. Sears, he was a train conductor,
Yeah.
and when the trains were going across the country, you couldn't schedule because everybody had different times. You go into this town and it's noon, and the next town over it's 12:30, and the next town over it's 11:45.
Yeah.
And so what did he do? He bought pocket watches and sold them to all the train conductors so they were all on the same time together. And so he built an empire from saying there's an opportunity here.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
it wasn't a calamitous opportunity like the pandemic, but it was keeping your eyes open and being a
Yep.
little fluid.
Yep. Exactly. Fluid, agile, pivot, all those words. Good stuff.
Pivot.
All right. Well, let's move on here, Terry, into the next realm. And then I see Dan had a place where he ran out of luck. I think we can cover that here in a little bit. So, Eric, if you wouldn't mind putting a pin in that one, so to speak, and we'll come back to it. So what's next, Terry?
One thing that I've seen in all my time in business is when people leave unexpectedly or leave expectedly. And, from a production standpoint, I couldn't tell you how many times people have come to my screen printing classes because their screen printer left suddenly and nobody there knew how to print shirts. And thinking, gosh, and you and I come from a long history of training and education. And so in my shops, I always had training going on every week. And I would pay people to be cross-trained. I would pay for the people in the screen room to come in on a Saturday and get a lesson in printing shirts, or the people in the art department to learn how to expose screens, or so you never skipped a beat when people left. And there's still those folks out there that say, well, I don't want to teach people everything I know or they'll go out and compete with me. Really?
Yeah.
That should be your last concern, because guess what? When they leave to compete with you, you've got somebody coming up behind them that can fill that spot. But I had an experience earlier this year where a very large company, every month they would give you a report and information that you needed to run your business. And the report didn't come at the beginning of the month. And we started inquiring about it. And with the person who did those reports retired. And I'm thinking, did he just walk in one day and say, okay, I'm retiring, I'm out? Or did he say, I'm retiring in 6 weeks? Let's get somebody trained up. And I thought that was the oddest response I've ever heard. Oh, well, he retired, and so we don't have that report caught up yet. We don't have somebody doing that yet. What were you doing from the time that person said, I'm going to retire? Like, again, as I said, I don't think anybody retires on the spot. It's noon. 5 o'clock. I'm retired. I'm out of here. See ya.
Yeah, that's a different kind of retirement.
Right. I'm sorry. We're going to be. I'm afraid we're going to have to retire you today.
Yes, exactly.
We're going to invite you to leave. That's my favorite phrase for firing someone.
Yeah,
we've invited you to leave.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important, Terry, when you talk about that training, that cross training, all that stuff. I can't remember exactly who it was. It was either Jack Welch or Peter Drucker, both kind of management guru guys. But yeah, they were asked a question at one point where somebody had asked them, don't you worry about, because they were big on this whole idea of really training and cross training and sharing everything about their companies with their employees, so their employees could do it well too. And the question was, well, aren't you worried that you're going to invest all that time in training and that they're just going to take that information and leave? And their response was, no, I'm worried that if I don't train them, they're going to stay. Right. And that
I love it. I love it.
So you don't give them the opportunity to do their job well. And so I think that type of thing, training, cross training. The other thing to think about here is the whole idea of hiring, I think, can be a little bit foreign. This was something we were never taught how to do. Right. I don't think anybody,
Right.
unless you went to school as an HR person, but I don't think most small business owners ever had any real training to hire people. And even going to school to be an HR person doesn't really give you what you need to actually hire well, right? It's a whole different ballgame. And so, hiring from a place of, oh my God, I need somebody right now, is way different than hiring from a place of, okay, I want to find the right fit, the right person that can come in and be a partner in this business with me in a way that works for both of us. Those are two totally different things. Unfortunately, most hiring comes from that, like you said, oh, well, he retired 6 weeks ago and now I need to find somebody to do that report. And it's now 7 weeks later from the retirement notice, and our business is floundering because we don't have that person, right? So even if you're like a solopreneur type person that is like not planning on hiring, this is still, I think, hugely important to businesses, is to take that opportunity to just write a job description, even if you don't think you're going to actually use it. Like what could be the help, right? So what I always do is I always start with writing my own personal job description first. Like when my company is at its ideal pinnacle of success, what is my job? What am I doing? And what's my focus? Because then you can figure out where you might need a little bit more help and be ready when it's, you'll get that gut feeling like, gosh, I need to find somebody. And so maybe it's just a temporary bring somebody in, but if you don't have, a document that how you do things, core values listed, I mean, there's a lot of kind of planning that goes into hiring somebody that most people don't do because they're kind of caught with their pants down, so to speak. So,
well, and a lot of business owners don't necessarily give their employees, especially smaller companies, a job description. And that sometimes that translates to the employee thinks their job is this and you think their job is that, and you're disappointed because they're not doing a good job of this because the employee thinks they're supposed to do that. And Aaron, I don't know how many times people have told us that they play our show and from the archive on their production floor, and shout out to everybody out there on the production floor listening to us right now in the archive. But if you're an employee, make a point of learning how to do other things at your work. And my adage for every employee out there and is make yourself completely indispensable at work.
Yep.
Here's the rule number 2, though. No one's indispensable. So get over yourself.
And I think, in today's current market, with the thought is that the power is in the hands of the employees currently. But the reality is when there is that kind of, stick it to the man or take advantage of the employee mentality on either side, then you're not actually able to make any progress, right? There's always going to be that tension there. So I think if both sides, right, the employees, like you said, make themselves as indispensable as possible, that's going to not only help the business, but it is that rising tide lifts all boats. So if you're a great employee doing great work and you're working with a great company that values what you're doing, both of you are going to go like this, right? But if it's kind of like you're trying to, I just want to, then that's where you get yourself into problems. On an employee into this right now, what can you do? Go ask your manager, your boss, the owner, what could I do to do?
Aaron, you are frozen on my screen. I don't know if. All right, very good. Apparently, you're frozen completely from this, and so Aaron, I'm going to jump ahead to the next one, and the next point that we wanted to talk about is when the supply chain snaps, and and by that I'm referring to what we're dealing with right now, where we just can't get product and things like that. So a couple of the points I wanted to bring up and is take advantage of the distributor availability tools. A lot of our distributors, the Sanmars and S&S and Alpha Broad, are always get in trouble when I start naming them off because I don't want to forget anybody. But they have a lot of availability information out there for you, and that will tell you, what the inventory is on this product or that product, and add to that, we want to be able to offer alternatives, be ready to say to people, and I have no problem at all saying to someone, there are issues with supply, and I describe it to customers. I'll be like, you see it every day, right? When you go to the grocery store, you go to the hardware store, it's the same with what we do. So let's talk about some alternatives. If we can't get A for you, how about B, and how about C? And so, some of your competitors are not doing that. Some of your competitors are out there saying, well, hey, we're out of stock on that, and end it right there. So, Aaron or Eric, are we having any luck getting Aaron back? Not at all. Very good. Well,
How about this? I was planning on coming in later for other stuff, but hey, why not? I can step in and here, I'll take Aaron's place for just a second while
there
he's
you
still
go.
going. Looks like his video's not updating, but I actually I can jump in on some of this too. I'm kind of with you on offering alternatives. Talking about supply chain problems, I cannot tell you how many people have talked about this in the embroidery world. It is the Richardson hat. It's the Richardson hat. Now, we've had this discussion many, many times. I
Right.
know that there are customers who absolutely, positively ask for that hat and will only go for that hat. And I know that there's some people who exist that way, but too many times I've seen someone hunting for this where I'm like, have you even tried to give them other options yet? Have you even started into that conversation? And sometimes they really haven't. So I know that you guys who are here, you're among the good ones who have already stopped and thought about this stuff. But it is entirely possible that if you haven't advanced it, no matter what this is, whether it's supply chain or other problems you have with your customer, advance the opportunity there. Consult with them, please. Like, don't wait for them to come to you with the solution. Have that solution in your pocket and give it to them, and also make it clear, like, oh no, we can try and search for these things, and or honestly, sometimes say I may not be able to take the time to stop and search for these things and still make it worthwhile to do your job. If I'm spending hours and hours hunting down the 5 elusive colorway hats you want, that's not a profitable place for me to be all the time. I mean, it may be
Right.
something to discuss, or at the very least, to put it out there and say, you know what? If you're in a waiting pattern, I get it. I understand that. It's what if you want to do that, you can. If you want your stuff now, here are the options I have on deck, and you can have it now, and we can deal with it currently. We can do something to move you along to get you a solution.
Eric, you made a really good point there at the beginning, where if you're already here listening, you're already thinking about these things. We often are preaching to the choir
Yeah,
when
totally.
we're talking about these things here. And by the way, that's my catchphrase, and if you use it, I will have to seek legal advice.
Well, bless your heart. Anyway, I think we have Aaron back. Let's see if we can bring him back in. There's Aaron.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well,
You're
video's a
here.
little chunky, but I think you're there. I'm gonna go ahead and drop myself back out, and we'll
All
see if we
right.
can get you
Thanks,
going.
Thanks for jumping in,
No
Eric.
problem.
All
Oh,
right.
so we were talking about when the supply chain snaps, and we're
Yeah.
talking about distributor availability and alternatives. But what are your thoughts on supply chain snappage?
Yeah. I mean, I did hear what you guys were saying, and I totally agree with all those things, right? We do have to, kind of goes back to when the pandemic happened, right? You got to be you got to be creative. But I also, I guess, need to stand up a little bit more for ourselves more. And I don't know if I'm jumping up again here.
I think you we're Oh, you might be frozen again. Eric, you might be our next
Yeah.
guest host.
I think I might just be the co-host right now. Sorry about that, Aaron. When I know what Aaron wanted to say, and I'm going to go ahead and jump in a little bit on this, since I know we've had this discussion privately and on the show before. Aaron kind of feels like, hey, we need to stand up for ourselves in this a little bit more and get to doing what we need to do to provide options. And I'm actually going to bring in a comics. I think this is a good one. Since I was talking to Richardson hats, I'll go ahead. It's specific. Sorry, Richardson. I'm not here to beat up on you guys. I know that supply chain problems happen, but this is what Mike says. Richardson hats aren't even the best option, available or not. I've had to invest in free samples just to correct people's opinions on them being the best, and more often than not, it works. If there's one thing to say about that we can do on our side, it's that really we have the ability to consult with people, and if we have to put these things in front of them, people don't. I don't want to say this. I do this in my shows where I'm like, all right, is it just us here, just decorators, no customers? Let me whisper this real quickly. Customers have no idea what they want. They don't really know. So if we don't show them what they can have, they don't really know in the first place. But what Aaron also thinks is like, hey, he thinks that the distributors also have some things to worry about here. Like, there was a lot of complacency, and one thing I'll say that a lot of people are doing that is not maybe working is that there's this period of time where you can kind of say, here's the excuse for why things are not going well for us. Here's the stuff that I would want to do and why I'm not doing it. Maybe pandemic is causing issues. That doesn't always hold up. And over long periods of time, there's people who've decided to continue saying this is why things are going wrong, and it may not be falling on deaf ears at a certain point. And I think that that's kind of what he's saying is like, why not do something and stand up for it and work on it? And so that's the thing. Aaron kind of put out in his concepts of this, like, sometimes you have to fire a distributor, sometimes you can't stick with people who aren't supporting what you need to get done. And I can get that. I mean, there's a lot of frustration that comes out of this, and that's the thing, it's just how it is. Why not do something about what's going on and the problems that you're showing? And I think that's the other part of it too. As soon as with our customers, we have issues with stuff, we have supply chain issues, and we just want to say, okay, you just point to it and go, hey, issue's not mine. The ultimate thing is that we have to provide a solution for them, whether the issue is ours or not.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, looks like Aaron's back. Eric, you want to just kind of hang out though?
Yeah, just hang out,
just in case.
Because actually, the next couple of points you loaded into the outline as well. So
yeah.
This is true.
All right, we'll see how we do here, guys. Sorry about that. So, thanks for having me back.
These things happen.
Yeah. What did I tell you about that solar-powered internet you've been experimenting with? Cloudy day in St. Louis, and
best part is my internet company just raised their rates too. So,
well, apparently they need the money.
Yeah. Apparently.
Well, this is definitely a study in how to handle things when things go wrong. We could have just called the show right there, folks. We did, but we don't. I mean, we can't do that in business either. We can't just call it a day and say, well, you know what? I took your money, but sorry, it ain't working out today, I guess. Yeah, we got to provide solutions. And I guess our solution is to keep on going.
It's funny you say that, because the office manager at Equipment Zone, she was leaving at noon today, and everything revolves around her. And so I jokingly said to her this morning, I'm like, we should probably just close at noon, because nothing's going to happen without you there.
Yeah, I've heard this many a time also, sometimes of my own fault, because I tend to step into a lot of roles when I see that there's an availability for work that needs to get done. And what you can make yourself into is what we call a single point failure, that if you disappear, suddenly everything grinds to a halt because you put yourself as a linchpin in like several processes. It's not actually the best thing. You might feel very, very accomplished, but it's not the best thing for business to make these bottlenecks that kill everything. But I mean, hey, since it's the topic I put on here, let me introduce the topic.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that I wanted to talk about was the classic catastrophe, the thing that happens to all of us just when disaster strikes. You have equipment failures or natural disasters or utilities going out.
Like internet.
These things happen, like internet. And I have had the great misfortune of walking into a flooded building. If you've never had the horror of doing the 5 a.m. walking through 4 inches of water because a water main is broken somewhere, it's horrific. I walked into my office to water spraying out of a wall into the power strip of my main graphics utility station. So into my computer's power strip, splashing off the case, complete loss. I had to walk in and tell everybody, okay, just so you know, the entire office building is flooded with 2 to 4 inches of water, depending on where you're standing. So these things happen. And the first thing I just want to say is You need to treat any of these stoppages as an eventuality, not a possibility. If you stay in this business for long enough, something will absolutely go wrong. Your equipment will fail, something will flood, something will burn. This is just an eventuality of working long enough in the business. This is an eventuality, not a possibility. You need to have a plan before it happens. And at the very least, you need to be aware of this and understand what you can do.
Yeah.
You know, I have to tell you a quick story. It just popped into my head when you're talking, Eric. I get a phone call. I had a crew working at night in a shop. They were kind of redoing the warehouse space, and it's better to do it when everybody else wasn't there. And get a phone call and from the warehouse manager, and he goes, "Hey, I hit one of the ceiling gas heaters with the forklift." I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. And I said, wait a second, what's that hissing sound? He goes, it's coming from the heater. I'm like, oh my God, get out of the building. Get out. He had knocked it off. The gas line was just pumping gas into the building. I'm like, oh my God. So of course I'm calling the fire department. I speed there. I'm in the parking lot. I could smell gas. It was that bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, this building's going to explode and it's going to be my fault. It didn't happen, but all my gas dryers were down the next day because the gas had to be shut off. So
yeah,
just like what you're talking about.
Yeah, accidents are going to happen, and I'll bring up one of the first points I kind of put up for this one. I am a big fan of the dream team. I always call it the dream team. It's building up like outsourced suppliers, people who can do jobs for you that maybe don't fit for you. Maybe you have a complete max out on your throughput. You're doing as many garments as you can possibly do, and you need to still service an important client. Building up a team of people you trust, or a team of other companies you can farm stuff out to, or contract companies you can farm stuff out to, is good all the time. But boy, is it ever handy when your equipment's gone. Like, is it ever good when your equipment's gone to have a relationship with somebody who you already trust, who you can work with, who isn't perhaps immediate competition, here's hoping, and you can get them involved and get jobs out the door.
Yeah.
So I think yo totally want to do this all the time. So I think the dream team of outsourced suppliers should be something you're always looking for, but boy, do you ever need them when your machine, your sole piece of equipment that you must have is out, or when something like a giant gas leak or a massive flood happens.
Yeah.
Isn't it really good to be able to farm out a job once or twice?
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent idea, that to have those relationships out there in the industry to be able to help out with things like that.
So I love that idea too. And I think what that tells me, right, if I'm a new business and I'm hearing this right now, what that tells me is that success in anything, but especially in this world where we have the inevitability of something going wrong, that success is a team sport. It really is a team sport. And having, like you said, that dream team around you, we see this inside of our Masters of Success mastermind group, right? Somebody has an issue, they can't get a job done, right? And they've got these people that they've spent enough time with now that they know and trust. And so it might not even be like you're an outsource necessarily. It's just somebody to help you out when things go wrong, or, you need that extra help. So having that team of people around you that understand what your company values and then can help you out in that bind, I think is huge. So,
and you be that person as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's available out there to help. And, and to kind of tie this up in a bow, think through these disaster scenarios. Sit down and think about what happens if the gas goes out? What happens if I lose power? What happens if a machine goes down? That was one of your examples, Eric. And, when I was running a large production shop, I had 2 exposure units. I had redundancy, right? One went out at 7 a.m. The other one went out at 8 a.m. And I was processing 125 screens a day. You can't skip a day. And so what was my solution? My 3 screen department folks were out on the dock exposing screens in the sun. I always tell people in my classes how to expose in the sun. I'm like, this is not something you want to do every day, but it's good to know how.
That's right. the big exposure unit in the sky.
That's right. God's exposure unit.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to absolutely put this out there. As a digitizer, this one is near and dear to my heart, people. If you have digital assets, and I know you have digital assets, so it's you. It's you who I'm talking to, not someone else. All digital assets should have a local and offsite backup. The cloud now is not a dream or something weird we have to explain to you. It's easy, available, and cheap. No digital asset should be living on one drive, one computer in your system. And if you are an old school embroiderer, I'm telling you this right now, if you have stuff that only lives on a single thumb drive in a drawer, right now, plug it in and back it up. Don't have that just living in one place. And by the gods, if it's on a floppy disk, do it right this second. Get a drive, a USB floppy drive, copy it off, put it somewhere.
I feel like you're talking to me, Eric. For our podcast listeners, Terry is holding up his junior yellow legal pad.
Right.
Hey,
How
admittedly,
do you
his
back
notes
those
won't be
things up?
gone. And
You need like a
believe me, that's
scanning
like
service.
if you take notes by hand, think of something like Evernote or something where you can snap pictures of them, and now you have a cloud backup even of your physical notes. Believe me when I say losing digital assets sucks,
Yeah.
because I've definitely done
Sounds
it.
like it's coming from personally. Well, and then
yeah.
to wrap this one up too, right? It talked about utilities going out and stuff like that.
Sure.
You know, basically what I would suggest is have an Eric around, right? Maybe you don't have the Eric Campbell in your back pocket, but whatever you have around, make sure you have a Eric Campbell in your life. So thanks.
There you go.
Support staff. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's the next one here, guys? I think we got time for one more, and we'll be a little bonus time, but I think we can do it.
Here's the one that I put in here, and it was when prices increase. And I mean, this is just something that happens. Pricing is increasing across the board. We know that inflation has been there, and you may have to increase prices. But this is the thing. You have to know the current standards that are available and provide alternatives, preserve budgets as needed. I know we don't like to talk about budgets, and the truth is, as much as I love to talk about selling on value and trying to get those higher budget customers in, there are occasionally going to be customers that you've had forever that have a budget that they have to hit, and you need to help them do that. There are more ways than just reducing garment quality to get there. We all know the good, better, best scale, but think about the totality of what someone's doing, and think about kind of the scope and the outcome. Like, what is your customer trying to get out of these garments? Is it promotions? Where are those garments going to be seen? How are they going to be used? Did they have a larger package of multiple pieces we can take something out of? Do they have a more complex decoration that we can pull back to something a little more bare bones to reduce costs there? Think about those options, kind of have them in your back pocket. It's not that you have to constantly be looking to, scrimp and save and cut every penny, but when the pennies start to count, it's a lot better to have the options available when you know the costs are going to come back and bite you, especially when there's just things that you can't avoid that have to be passed on unless you're going to be eating those costs. And that's something that we don't want to be doing. So focus on outcomes, and always, as much as I'm saying sometimes you have to do that for the budget, I do still want everybody to think about keeping your value up front. Way too often I see people hiding the value they're providing to a customer. The big one that I say, especially on the take up, we just talked about this recently. People will discount something for someone, for a client, and not say anything about it. And I'm like, no, put it on your invoice and strike it back out so they see it.
Yeah.
Every single time. If you are going to discount something, even if you never intend to charge this customer for a service, but you're providing it, put it on your invoice and discount it off every time, so that later on they know the labor that goes into it. If you have to charge for it down the road, at least it is on the invoice and they understand that that's a thing. And if nothing else, you get the goodwill of them knowing that you're forgiving them something that is of actual value. Don't hide your value, and keep the other things that are unique about your value up front. Show the unique value. What can you do that other people can't? And make sure that's in front of people, that part of the experience of working with you, that unique value is something that's in front of them so they understand what they're paying for. But certainly comes the prices just coming up, you may have to find options, and you may have to just be pretty honest with folks and look for other places where you can recuperate that.
Nice. Terry, I know you've got a point in here too, but I'm just going to throw something in real quick. One quick statement. Everything that Eric talked about there, 100% true. The only way you can do what Eric just talked about there is understanding exactly how much it costs you to be in business. What is your overhead number that includes paying yourself and planning for the future? So if you don't know that, I think I've maybe told this story already, but I was really surprised in the classes that I recently taught. I'd asked that about, who here knows how much it costs them to be in business just to open your doors. And it was nobody knew, right? And they were new businesses, so it totally made sense. But honestly, do you know that number? And if not, after you get done backing up your files, then go do that work. So anyhow, Terry, go ahead.
Do the files first. That's
Yeah.
It's the E rule. But I talk about this in my classes too. I've done back when I used to do consulting. I would go into shops and it was called double your production in 30 days or less, and that was based on being efficient about what you do. If you're efficient about what you do, a price increase doesn't impact you as much. It's easy to, like you're saying, Aaron. They don't know how much it costs them to be in business. I'm making a profit because I'm charging for the shirt, and I'm charging for the decoration, I'm charging for this, and charging for that. I started as a contract printer, which meant I only made money on the actual print, which meant I had to be incredibly efficient. If my presses stopped, I was losing money.
Yeah.
And so if you are more efficient about what you do, there's a lot more cushion in there for profitability. So get efficient.
There you go. Nice.
For sure.
All right. Well, great stuff, guys. I think we've covered a lot of ground. Appreciate again, Eric, jumping in and helping me out there. Hopefully some of my points were still made.
Hopefully.
And this was the point where Eric was going to jump in anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
This is true.
Worked out perfect. So, Eric, I will, since you're going to be the reader, why don't you let me push buttons here?
Okay.
And we will do maybe if I can get there. Okay. All right. Let's have some 5 things brought to you by the Eric Campbell.
All right, folks. So this is 5 things, 5 things to do as we both push buttons. That's anything can go wrong. Here, I'll handle the banners. I got it. All right, folks. To start over, this is 5 things to do when your competition steals, and I'm putting this in scare quotes, a customer or a job. So that's what we're going to talk about. So once again, why is this in scare quotes? Because people can't really necessarily steal a customer or a job. If they're a better fit, they're a better fit. And there may be some reasons to think about that. But let's discuss this a little further. Number 1, be brutally honest with yourself. Most of the time when something goes completely wrong, we know what it is. You often know if you dropped the ball. This is not the time to get defensive, even though it can be really tempting, especially if the customer came off in a bad way. This is the time to stop, take stock, break down the why and how, and just be brutally honest. You do this privately. It doesn't have to be in front of the customer, and it's not admitting guilt. It's dealing with what's really there and understanding when something's going wrong. Next thing, number 2, listen carefully to criticism. And here's the thing. Every time I say this, and they go, but what if they're just unreasonable? Even if it's bunk, even if what they've said isn't actually what happened, knowing the justifications and perceptions of the customer can be educational to you. If nothing else, it may show you a place where the communication's breaking down and where they don't understand what's actually going on. And rather than fight with that customer, it means that further down the road, you'll be able to work on your processes and your communications to make sure it doesn't happen that way again. Or at the very least, you have a chance to sit open-minded and understand that this is how the customer is justifying them leaving or choosing someone else. Third thing, dispassionately, and I mean this seriously, dispassionately evaluate the customer. Despite the fact that, once again, these can sometimes be charge situations, you have to think about the fact that some customers were never yours. Bargain hunters are fickle. If someone is going for the bottom dollar, no matter what, they're constantly going down to that lowest price. They will leave you eventually if they haven't left you yet. That's why I don't like to compete to go racing toward the bottom, because frequently bargain hunters are just going to go week by week to whoever has the lowest prices that they can get. It's just not necessarily the best fit for your shop, and not all jobs, not all customers are the best fit for your shop in the first place. Better to have the ones that fit well and pay us back. Next, number 4, refocus on your strengths. It can be really easy sometimes to look at these weaknesses, things that go wrong, and think that there's a lot to change. But when we have customers that just aren't a good fit, it may be that we just need to work on our strengths and getting customers who fit into the model that we're working on. When you think about competition, getting a job or getting something that you expected, getting out of the customer, sometimes you just need to say, instead of I want to chase what they're doing, what is it that I can do that other competition shop can't do? And how can I get to more people who value my unique ability? And number 5, and probably the most important of all these things, move forward. Don't get hung up on these things. Be civil, even-handed, and open-minded in talking with the customer. And when they exit, if there's some dealings you have to have with somebody to exit, don't try and hold them hostage. Don't try and be rude or mean. Don't be curt. Be open, casual, and let them go honestly with your reputation intact and with doors open and bridges unburnt. Once you've learned what you can from the job, the best thing you can do is move forward to the next opportunity and get back to your confidence.
I
There you
love it.
go.
I love it. I love your don't burn bridges because, I'm always telling people that in this industry, this is a small industry. I mean, it's billions of dollars, but don't burn bridges. I mean, you run into these same people out there in the world. So
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing how much business is done kind of over the barrel head, to use an old term for it. We still really rely on a lot of recommendations and referrals. And you never know if the person you're talking to is someone who's going to talk to your biggest customer, or
Yeah.
you don't know who is whose cousin, whose friend, whose softball team member. And if you treat them horribly on the way out because you had a bad experience, even though they may be quote unquote in the wrong, it's very much unimportant to the rest of your process, and you don't know who they're going to influence. So honestly, be the best version of yourself for yourself, and don't
Yeah.
worry about what you're giving them that's not fair.
Yeah.
Be the best version of yourself because that's who you want to be in business.
Nice.
I understand over the barrel head is your catchphrase, and that if someone uses it,
Trademark.
Get some mileage out of that.
Look it up, everybody.
All right. Well, Charles said, great show today. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Charles.
Oh,
As we
all
both
right.
push buttons
I'm
again.
stopping
All right.
pushing the buttons. I'm sorry. All right, Eric, while we still have you here, can you share what
Yes.
you've got coming up, please?
Yes, I absolutely can. Join me today for the Take Up. This week it is episode 111, and this is faux machine embroidery digitizing for print. Yes, I know. I'm talking about print stuff today. Kind of weird. Talking about print art. I'm going to talk about how you use embroidery digitizing software and editing software in concert with vector and raster graphic software to create art for digital printing and multimedia. If you guys didn't see, I did a little project with Jay Bassell over at Equipment Zone where we did a faux embroidery print on the DTG machine for Mother's Day, and everybody universally said, "Do you have a class on that?" And I don't yet. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit today and some of the different things I've done in order to create that art. So head over to ericcampbell.com. Get over to the Take Up tab at the top. When you click that, you will get the full playlist, and the current episode will be up and front and center on that sheet. Also, extended session coming up. Don't know if the listing is up yet. Haven't had a chance to check, but Impressions Expo Fort Worth, I am doing the patch class again, the long patch workshop. So that should be posted soon. Check out impressionsexpo.com for more information.
Awesome.
Is it literally a long patch, or is it a long seminar on patches?
I will teach you how to make long patches. That's the whole seminar, just long patches. No.
Just oh, no, that's a wide patch. We're not covering that.
No. Only portrait mode. Only portrait mode,
right.
Long patches. That's it. Yeah, instead of the usual hour or so that you get, this is one of those 3.5 hour, 4 hour kind of log workshop style experiences. Yes, it's still lecture style. That is how I teach, but it is definitely a longer session. If you're expecting to go in there for an hour, you'll be very tired by hour 3.
All right. And Eric, you can't say things like, I don't have a class yet in front of me and expect not to be poked. So
I know.
Believe
me, there's a couple that are probably coming for the decorators community soon, because I continually hear about them. That is one of the short seminars I probably need to do. But yeah.
All right.
A lot of people asking about the
now
faux
you've just
embroidery
opened up
prints,
a can of worms. I'm not sure you wanted to open, but that's okay.
Hey, believe me, at the end of the hour and a half of the Take Up, I'm sure that'll be a can of worms I'm really well acquainted with.
At least Aaron didn't call you out and make you commit right now live. Now, at least now
it didn't make me open my
over.
calendar. Yeah, this is true. I didn't have to open the calendar in front of everybody, so that's good.
This is a process, Terry. That comes later. Okay. All right.
7 to 10 touches.
You had just gotten
action.
to that point in the process, Terry, where I had to hold your feet to the fire. So,
and my calendar is not on the
Okay. All right.
That was Terry for podcast
Terry.
listeners. That was Terry holding up his big book of travel.
Big book of travel. All right.
Big book
Eric,
of travel
thank you so much
trademarks.
Yeah, there you
Use
go.
that.
That's trademark. Yeah.
Trademark. Just
That's my catchphrase.
That's right. All right, Eric. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you covering and jumping in and all that great information and making the show, all that content you shared with us.
Well,
So
I'm going to drop out and let you guys finish out the show.
Don't
Awesome.
go far, Eric. Who knows if Aaron's going to make it through the
Hey,
end?
it's Friday the 13th. You never know what's going to
You
happen.
never know.
That's it. Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Ramona said that earlier. Wait, could that have been Aaron's Friday the 13th moment? So could have been. All right. Terry, what's coming up for you, sir?
Well, I have my complete screen printing business course with Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago, May 21st and 22nd. But everybody, that is sold out completely. As always with Atlas Screen Supply, they do such a great job in getting people lined up for that class.
Nice.
My next class will be at Workhorse Products in Phoenix. That's June 11th and 12th. We do have some slots still open there.
Okay.
And I'll be doing a DTG seminar at the Graphics Pro Expo in Indianapolis. That will be
Awesome.
on June 2nd, around the corner. And all of my upcoming 2022 screen printing classes are on my website if you want to look down the road a little bit. And all my upcoming events are at terrycombs.com. How about you,
Awesome.
Aaron?
Yeah, so I still need 2 or 3 more judges for the Skills USA competition happening out in Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're a sublimator, here's the deal. As a judge, I've talked to some folks that were like, "Oh, I don't know if I haven't been doing it that long." Blah blah. All you have to do as a judge, in fact, you don't necessarily have to be a sublimator. It would certainly be a little bit helpful to kind of critique what's going on. But honestly, what the kids are being mainly judged on is, are they following instructions? And then, at the end of when they're done with the item, is that a saleable item? So even if you're not necessarily a sublimator, you know what looks good and what doesn't look good as a decorator. So if you can be out in Atlanta, Georgia, the 22nd and 23rd, I'd love to have you join us as a judge. Just a great opportunity to give back and support and see these young people really working hard to, get involved in our industry. So if you're interested in that at all, if you'll just reach out to me, Aaron at tworegularguys.com. I've got some judges lined up, but I just would like to have some extra 2 or 3 more. That way, I'm not putting too much on the judges that I currently have.
Are you trying to build some redundancy just based on today's
build
show?
A little redundancy now, because I've been a judge for the last 6-7 years, and yes, there were times where we showed up and so and so is not going to be able to make it now. So and so is not going to be able to make it now, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I will be planted firmly here for 10 hours a day for the next. So, yes,
well, I will. Let me add this, Aaron. Back when this was virtual during COVID, I was one of the screen printing judges. It was lots of fun, super interesting, and the kids were awesome. So if you're available to do it, it's very rewarding.
Yeah, I agree, Terry. And you just get to come and see like a really cool event. I think in general, this is just really uplifting and inspiring to see this happening. And I also believe, this is a way. So if you're in the distributor world, if you're in that side, right, where these are your future potential customers, or if it's your job to build up our industry, then you need to be involved in something like this. In fact, also could use a little bit more support from the sublimation distributors, suppliers, printer side of things. Unfortunately, Epson did not come through and is not going to be able to come through this year. So I'm not worried about it, because Condi, David Gross over there and his team, they've stepped up in a huge way. And I know that they'll take care of it. He said, whatever you need done. But I'd like to make sure that we kind of spread that wealth a little bit and allow the kids to see everything that's going on. So, it's I think it's important to have people get involved and show their support by kind of putting their money where their mouth is, right? Everybody talks a good game about, oh yeah, the future, and we need to do good things. But when it's time to actually step up, let's see who the action takers are. So I guess I'm kind of calling people out a little bit, Terry. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I love doing this because it means something to me. Does it bring like immediate direct? Can I put the money value on things for my business? Not necessarily, right? I can help these kids with the education, and that's what I love, period. Right. So, it's that kind of a situation. So anyhow, reach out. That's the one thing I wanted to share. Appreciate all of the support and everything that we've gotten so far, and all the judges who have already agreed to be there, and the support from people like Condi and those types of folks. So really appreciate all that. Can't wait. I'm really excited about that happening in June. next thing I wanted to share with folks, Terry, I don't know if it's been under the radar. It's been under my radar. But our friend Cheryl Kuchek, who we've had on the show before, has got a virtual event coming up here in a little bit, and it is happening starting on May 24th. And if you'll go to sublimationsummit.com, if you want to register for that, we actually have a code. It's OSG10, and that's going to save you $10 off that registration fee. So check that out. And then last thing for me, Terry, to share is September 15th in Charlotte, North Carolina. The Graphics Pro Expo is hosting the Start Here Academy. Really excited about this. I think this is such a cool concept. And they've asked me to MC this event. I'm really super stoked about that opportunity because it's, to me, MCing is so much fun because I get to highlight, right? I get to like show off other people. And there's going to be 3 really incredible makers and influencers. That's the space they come from. They've got YouTube channels and they've got lots of followers and probably have great TikToks, and they understand that they can't catchphrase things that are common language, all that kind of stuff. So I get to highlight them, and they're going to share, kind of great tips and tricks and ideas about starting in apparel decorating. So in fact, we've already confirmed 2 of those 3 on to the Two Regular Guys show leading up to it. In fact, starting next week and then the week after that, we're going to hear from them. And so we'll hear a little bit more. We just want to hear from them on their story. We won't probably talk a whole lot about Start Here Academy at that point, but this is a cool opportunity. So just get it on your calendar, September 15th. And the link is graphics-pro-expo.com/start-here-academy. So we'll endeavor.
Just rolls off the tongue.
I think, you know what? I think I do have a short link for it. So try this one, osg.link/SHA for Start Here Academy. So I know I didn't give that to you earlier, Eric, so don't worry about putting it on the screen. But for those of you podcast listeners, go to osg.link/SHA. All right. I think we did it, Terry. I made it through. I came back in. The great part is here, Terry, my internet that I said went up, I'm not using that right now. Hot spotting it worked better today. I don't know. Yeah. Crazy. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Terry, great job. Eric, great job. What a great show. We got our Friday the 13th moment out of the way. So everything's up and up here, right? And yeah.
It's all peaches from here.
Yep, exactly. Like we talked about here today, guys. Challenge is going to happen. Deal with them. Get back up. Keep moving forward. Plan ahead, and use all these amazing tips that Eric and Terry and I was able to share with you guys today. So thank you guys so much for being here.
Absolutely. We would thank our show producer, Eric Campbell, for pushing all the right buttons, for jumping in, because the Two Regular Guys build in redundancy, and for all the help you did putting the outline together today, Eric. We really appreciate it.
Yep, Eric, definitely much appreciated. High five, sir. All right. Well, Terry, I already kind of mentioned it, but next week we've got Stan Banks joining us. His business is called the T-Shirt Side Hustle, where he teaches people how to get into the T-shirt business. And he's doing some amazing things. And he's actually been somebody that I've kind of had marked as like, we got to get this guy on the podcast. And so to be able to finally make that connection, I'm really excited to talk to Stan next week. So tune in and learn from Stan. And I'm looking forward to having that conversation next week, Terry.
Fantastic. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
We are the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.